welcome to Tales from the Tips. I'm DA. Normally I'd say alongside 15-year Tour Caddy Mick Middlemo, but Mick, he's on a plane back to Australia, so I did some recruiting. I am so excited to say this. Welcoming back a frequent contributor to the podcast. He is the executive director of the Tour Championship here in Atlanta, Mr. Alex Urban. Alex, welcome back. How you been?
Always good to be here. I'm good. Just, plugging away.
Well, as I always say, we're a couple of guys that love the game of golf, both inside and outside the ropes, but we come at it from a different perspective. All right, so let's do this. You ready? I got the agenda for you.
Okay.
Mick loves it when I don't tell him what we're doing. So
perfect.
We obviously have some catching up to do because the last time you were on with us was late July.
Yep.
You, Chad, myself, and Mick were in the garden room there at East Lake overlooking the 18th green. So you have some updates, both personal and professionally, that's been going on. So we'll get to that. Our buddy, good friend, Gary Woodland with a big W this past weekend at the Texas Children's Houston Open. We also get to talk about a little Valero Texas Open warm-up for the Masters. I'm going to ask you a key question on some guys that are not qualified yet for the Masters. And then, of course, my friend, we will talk about the Tour Championship. I can't wait to get your feedback from last year. First-time winner on the PGA Tour, Tommy Fleetwood. And then also things that are happening with you. But before I get to that, I want to thank the folks here at the Mitsubishi Electric Classic presented by Venture. I am in the wonderful offices of the team down here. Just had a chance to spend some quality time with Mr. Stuart Sink, winner this past weekend out on the Champions Tour. Little four-stroke victory over Ernie Els and some young guy named Zach Johnson. So pretty nice performance there. So, sir, if this all sounds good to you, are you ready?
Let's rock.
Let's grip it and rip it. Okay, let's start here. Let's start with the Gary Woodland. Emotional win, 21 under at out in Houston. Birdies 3 of his last 5 to beat Nikolai Højgaard by 5. Let me ask you this, and I'm going to start here because you have always said horses for courses. That's one of your favorite sayings. Are these guys getting too good for municipalities?
Oh, you talking about just how many under they are and.
Yeah, I mean, well, and can the municipalities hold up these days? I mean, even the top level ones.
What's your definition? Like, here's the true rub of it is like, what is the point of a golf tournament? And the answer is to put on something entertaining. Yeah. Hopefully, you have a good competition or a great winner. And it's hard to look at last week and say, yeah, this wasn't good. Like, he won by a lot, but man, he was maybe the first guy in what felt like a couple of months to close a 54-hole lead. Everyone wanted Gary to win last week, just given his story and everything he's overcome, especially after he then went and talked to Rex Hoggard on Golf Channel a couple weeks ago at the Players and talked about PTSD. And so I think everyone was rooting for him. But, man, how many 54-hole leaders have we seen with sizable leads that have blown them? I think everyone was worried until Gary, I think it was right about time he got to like 12, 13, I started to breathe a little more easily for him.
Yeah.
I don't think the courses, I think they'll be fine. I mean, like any golf course, if it's relatively soft and there's not a lot of wind, guys are going to shoot pretty low just about anywhere. It doesn't matter. Does not matter.
So Mother Nature is really the only
that plays a huge factor. Yeah, like length matters and how wide the fairways are matter. And there's going to be some courses that are easier than others. But I don't think that's necessarily a good or a bad thing. I don't think you'd want a U.S. Open every week. We talked about that. But I also don't think you'd want it to be 30 under every week. And neither of those things is happening. If you look at what was the tournament that they just played? I thought Players held up really well, especially on the back nine. I thought that was a really
Valspar usually can get to a shootout, but if that, like you said, that's if weather conditions are soft there in Florida, and you get a good rain and soaking. Yeah, it's a very hard golf course. Copperhead's not an easy golf.
I've never been a big, for example, I ran Kapalua for a number of years, and I'm pretty intimately knowledgeable of that golf course. Guys would regularly shoot between 20 and 35 under par there. Now, it's par 73, so extra par 5, you're going to shoot a few more under because of that. But at the same time, that is not an easy golf course. I'm sorry, it's just not. But for some of those guys, it's not too hard in terms of the number of birdies. But as long as the competition is good and exciting, that never bothers me too much.
Well, and you've actually mentioned that about Kapalua was depending on the trade winds. Trade winds can affect what that golf course was playing like, whether it was down or in, and and going back to what you said about the 54-hole leader. As a matter of fact, Mick and I just had touched on this again last week. I think Mick's saying last week was golf is hard, and especially when you have a 54-hole lead. And it's been a few years since you won a tournament. I mean, It's not like Gary hasn't won a tournament, but it had been a few years. Yeah, and going back to what you also said with his interview with Rex, I mean, he is battling some demons that most of us don't even understand. So with that, and I agree with you. I think everybody was cheering for Gary Woodland last week. Nothing against Nikolai, great young man. He's going to win plenty of tournaments.
Yes.
But I think everybody was pulling for Gary Woodland last week.
Yeah.
What does this do, though? Let me ask you this, because you've been around these guys enough. What does that do? I mean, Gary is beloved by a lot of the guys. What does this do in the locker room for, the overall, I want to say, energy in the locker room, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, I think the guys spend a lot of time around each other, and Gary's one of those guys, at least in my, 13 or so years with the tour, which included my time in communications department, going to a bunch of events, and Gary's just a popular guy. He's a nice guy. He's nice to everybody. Everyone likes him. You know what I mean?
It's like kids.
He's like one of those. Yeah, exactly. And he's, but I think just a very genuinely kind person. Not to say kids is not, but he goes out of his way to make sure he's nice and kind to everyone. That extends to his wife and his family. And so I think it's, sports is a funny way of having the storylines always come to the forefront. And when you can have a storyline that's really authentic from overcoming adversity is probably the best emotion that you can do in sports. And when the adversity is not just competitive adversity, this is health adversity. And then in the aftermath of that, you're dealing with PTSD and anxiety in a sport where Ludwig Over plays great golf for 3.5 days, hits one bad shot, and it seems to derail him for 90 minutes. Like, what kind of demons, what kind of stuff is he thinking about? To overcome all that, I think for him, man, it really feels like if he can figure that out. I mean, he's also got like 195 ball speed. That helps.
I was going to say.
I don't care what golf course you're playing. If you're hitting it that far, you're going to be able to compete if you can keep it somewhat straight.
You and I can only dream, right?
Not even close. I do think that, I'd imagine there's some nice positive vibes in the locker room. When he plays next, I think the guys will be really excited to see him, congratulate him. There's always certain guys when they win people are a little extra charged up. Tommy Fleetwood here was a great example of that. I think there was a lot of guys on tour rooting for him.
Yeah, I would second that. I mean, and Tom, again, you talk about another guy that is always outgoing, very personable, not only with his collective group of counterparts, but also to the fans. I mean, Tommy, minus that one little week up in New York with Bethpage, I mean, is beloved by fans. This is one of those guys out on tour. But a lot of these guys are like that, and that's the thing that you and I have always talked about is these players are now being, you're able to get to know these players a lot more intimately than we ever were able to get to know Jack and Arnie and those guys back in the day.
There was a Full Swing episode on Gary, and
I was in tears watching that one.
Same. And he's talking about writing a letter to his kids before he goes in for the surgery, just in case he doesn't make it. And like if that doesn't hit you in the heartstrings, I don't know what would. And so there's a story you might not know that story if you hadn't seen the show, and then you watch these storylines in that setting, and then you watch the live competition play out, and it provides depth from a narrative standpoint. That as a fan, I'm a golf fan. I love watching the sport, and like it just makes it more interesting and exciting to watch. And that goes for whomever. I feel the same way about Matthew Fitzpatrick. He's been featured in that show a lot. I feel like I know him a lot better than I did. And then now his brother wins on the DP World Tour last week, and what a cool storyline for two guys that I now really like because of that show.
Yeah, well, I mean, and the Joel Damon effect. I mean, same with Joel. I mean, Joel and Gino. I mean, the Joel and Gino breakup last year was like headline news. I mean, it was trending on X.
And then they get back together for a tournament, and everyone's excited about it. Like, you know what I mean? It's definitely changes. Look, sports is storytelling. It's entertainment. So you want the stories to be as good as they can be, so that when whatever happens competitively, it's providing support for whatever that narrative is. And so Gary's the perfect example of that. And it's always better when they're feel-good stories, always.
Yeah, so speaking of nice guys, I think I'll say this, because sitting in your shoes as the executive director of the Tour Championship, the last thing you want, especially in a very limited field, is a guy dropping out. Texas Children's Houston Open lost a big name right before the tournament, Scotty Scheffler. It's reported that Scotty and Meredith are expecting their second child. I haven't seen any details on it. They're a very private family, and we want to respect his privacy. But what do you, I think the best storyline out of that tournament was Gary Woodland returning back to victory, when you had lost your biggest star, so to speak. Let me ask you this, though, before it was announced, what are your thoughts on Scotty right now, and what do you expect to see next week when he tees it up in Augusta?
It's fun to watch, isn't it? It's different. I mean, he's been a guy that has typically gotten off to pretty hot starts, and he's, by the time we talk before the Masters, he's already won 2, 3, 4 times the last couple of years. And it's, let's not forget he does have a win. Everyone's already. Everyone's writing the what's going on with Scotty's story. Like he does have a win. It's not like he's completely spinning his wheels, but it looks a little different. I think it's because he seems a little bit more frustrated, at least from what I can see, just on the golf course inside the ropes. So who knows? It's it could be it's golf, right? Golf is hard. It could be any number of things. Maybe his swing doesn't feel right. Maybe he's been, making sure he's there a little bit extra right before his new baby comes and he's not practicing quite as much. Or maybe he's practicing more. I don't know. You could only ask him. I will say Augusta does seem to have a way of, for the guys that have played well there, something about drawing on past memories, experiences, whatever. Like, for example, I always expect Jordan Spieth to play well there.
Yeah,
he hasn't every year, but I don't know, something about driving up Magnolia Lane when you've won the tournament, I imagine, is probably good for your brain.
Yeah,
and so
it brings back good swing thoughts.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we do it all the time in our rounds. I mean, I'm sure there's places out at East Lake where you get up on a tee and you're standing there going, "This to me it could be one of the hardest holes on the golf course," but for some reason you have played that hole really well most of the time you're out there. You go out and you par, birdie, You're
giving me a lot of credit, DA.
Well, come on, I gotta get.
I think it's more about standing on the tee and seeing the demons for myself. A lot more negative memories than positive on any given. You name the tee box, I'll tell you a bad shot I've hit there.
I was just watching Stuart Sink describe the new Stableford scoring system and why what they're going to do here at the Mitsubishi Electric Classic this season. And he's standing on 18 and going, I'm going to hit a 5-iron into this green. And I'm like going, I've been where you are standing. Not from the back tees, but from a little further up, and I'm hitting a rescue into that, and I'm still, don't know if that's a good idea.
Those guys, especially the guys that are between 50 and 55, they're pretty long out there still.
These guys they're so good. They're so good.
There's still some really good players out there for sure. I think Zach Johnson, I love that he just committed to PGA Tour Champions and is I'm playing a full PGA Tour Champions schedule. He seems like the exact kind of guy that could go out there and just win a million tournaments.
I'm excited. You ready for this? We had our media lunch there today. So you ready for these names? Ben Crane,
Oh,
Zach Johnson.
Ben Crane's 50? That's wild to me.
And this will be his first start here because he turned 50 after the tournament last year.
Okay, so
Bo
Ben
Van
Crane,
Pelt,
Bo
Rory
Van Pelt.
Sabatini.
Sabatini,
Can you believe that?
that's
So,
crazy.
it's really interesting to see some of the guys that, I mean, man, I feel like I just was watching them yesterday out on
It does make
PGA
me.
Tour.
It makes even me start to feel old because I remember like when Zach Johnson was a rookie on
Hey,
tour.
no, you can't
I'm
say that.
telling
You
you,
got young
I'm
ones,
not, but,
buddy.
like, I've been
I
watching.
can say
golf
that I've got
for a
one getting
long
ready to
time.
graduate.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know?
I know. I have I got two now. I got a fresh one.
Yeah. A lot of. Okay, so let's shift a little bit. Let's go to the Valero Texas Open. Colin Morikawa withdrawing. What do you think? Does he play next week in Augusta?
I'm sure he'll try. I mean, I'm sure. My guess is that he's trying really hard to play. That's when nobody wants to miss the Masters, especially for Colin, who's been playing very, very, very well all season. Like right up until he withdrew from the Players. He was one of my. I thought he was going to be in the mix that week, just on based on how he's played. So it's definitely a shame to see him struggling with a little injury. So hopefully, it's just him really trying to rehab it back to.
You think it's precautionary?
Yeah. I hope. I mean, I'm sure. I'm sure he would have liked to have played this week, but I'm sure he's looking towards next week to try to make sure that he can go. So I'm sure we'll see him there. That's my guess. I don't know, but.
Well, and historically, he plays in this tournament as the tune-up for the Masters. He's pretty historically
some
played.
of those guys love to play the week before. Some of them don't, and it just depends on the guy.
Yeah, I think usually you see a lot of the guys. The guys that are playing this week some of them are in that position where I have to play to win, or I'm not going to be in Augusta, Georgia next week. I'm going to have a week off. Speaking of those, are you ready for these 5 names?
Yeah.
Ricky Fowler, Matt Kuchar, Billy Horschel, Joaquin Niemann, Seamus Power.
Neiman's a live guy, yeah?
He is a live guy.
So he's not playing this week.
Last year he was sent a special invite.
Oh, gotcha. I thought you were talking about guys that were playing this week at Valero. I was like, I don't think he's playing at Valero.
Yeah, no, these are guys that are on the outside,
kind of first out.
Yeah, Ricky. Now, I will say, just in looking at early scoring from today, Ricky was out to a nice start. I would love to see Ricky Fowler there next week. Any other names that you would see that you have looked at that are on the leaderboard this week? You're like, man, love to see him next week in Augusta.
Boy, who were the other ones you mentioned?
Matt Kuchar, Billy Horschel, obviously Billy, big for us here in Atlanta, just with the drive. Disappointing end for our drive team this year in TGL.
I was watching. Yeah. I'm always watching. Oh yeah, Billy would be certainly a guy that would be great to have. He's a guy that you could imagine winning a Masters in his career, just based on the game that he.
Seamus Power let me down, by the way, last week. Yeah, that was my pick, and he had a backup caddy on his bag, which I blame Mick always when there's a backup caddy. I'm like, come on, you guys should know all this stuff. He missed the cut on me.
That's tough. I'm looking at the guys on the leaderboard right now. Will Zalatoris?
Willie Z. That's another good one, man.
A guy that's battled back injuries forever.
Speaking of, back issues.
Hopefully playing well. You know who's been playing pretty well this year is Maverick McNeely.
Yeah.
And I see he's playing decently well early enough on the leaderboard here. There's a few guys in there that I think would be nice additions to the Masters field. I've really enjoyed watching Thor Bjornsson play this year. Young guy.
Yeah.
Dumond de Chassar.
Yeah. What is your take on the slow play? Speaking of Matt Fitzpatrick, let's take that full circle. Matt Fitzpatrick calls out his playing partner.
Well, I'm not an expert on slow play by any means. I do know that it's it's one of those things that people are looking at. It's one of the You talk about fan forward and the things the PGA Tour is trying to do to make the game more watchable and exciting, and everyone references baseball added the pitch clock and it's made the games more watchable. And as someone I've never been the biggest baseball guy in the world, partially because it felt slow. It definitely feels like the games are pretty snappy now, which is good.
Yeah.
I don't think if you hear those guys talk, it's funny. I remember it was one of the players was talking about how, the way to end slow play is post the list of the guys in the locker room who are taking the longest. Make it a player on player kind of scenario, and that's kind of what you're describing happened, right? Like you got one player calling another player out, no one else is saying it, but okay.
Twin Peaks is the best in the game. Here, your favorite drafts are poured at a frosty 29 degrees, and rare barrel-aged whiskeys are served just the way you want them. It's bigger game days and bolder fight nights. I mean, where else can you find a scratch kitchen that always comes in clutch every day from lunch to late night? Only at Twin Peaks, the #1 sports bar.
Stick around after the sun sets. Twin Peaks is open really late. Wind down with bourbon and late night bites.
I think you're spot on. The guys, it is guys taking on, holding each other accountable. The thing for me is 4 hours and 3 minutes was still the final time for the final group on a Sunday. That's not bad. That's right there at the tour average. That's exactly inside the window that, whether it's CBS or Fox or whoever's NBC, whoever's got the coverage, that's the window they want to be in.
The tournaments seemingly have been ending. I watch every week, and I'm close enough to it that I'm always looking at that 6 o'clock time to see I wonder how close they're going to get. They've been doing it and clearing it with relative ease of late, which is good. I mean, that's a lot of the talk is, among the other things that the Future Competitions Committee is doing is trying to figure out field sizes and the optimal tournament setup. Yeah.
So what else are you looking for then from at this week at the Valero? Is there anything that in particular you're watching, or is it like, man, I can't wait to see these guys next week in Augusta?
No, well, I like watching it. Every tournament is its own idiosyncratic thing, right? And so especially when you've got a tournament like Valero Texas Open that's been around for a long time, it has its own history and winners and
over 100 years
and all those things. That's what I'm saying. This is a long time tournament. This is not a new thing. So I'm a sicko. So I sometimes like watching the guys that are on the way up. Like last year, we had a great time watching Chris Gotterup play well this time of year to then ultimately make his way into the Tour Championship and continues to play well. And to me, that's just as fun as watching Scotty dominate or Rory win the Masters. That's great too. But that's the beauty of golf is you have the underdog story. Any given week, you can have there's all these potential storylines that exist. You think about it. Last week's a great example, right? Okay, you have Scotty leaves the field. That's one potential storyline is Scotty gets a second win before the Masters. Gary Woodland is in the field too. If he wins, what a story that is. Amazing. This week, Jordan Spieth wins. That would be a good story.
Great story especially for a Texas boy to win.
Exactly. Yep. Texas boy winning in Texas right before the Masters, gets his form back. You just think about all these different storylines that exist. So, like always, I'm just kind of looking, right as we talk right now, Will Zalatoris is in the lead of this golf tournament. That would be a fun story. I would love to sit and watch him win a golf tournament after everything he's been through from an injury standpoint. That's a great storyline. Tony Finau, he hasn't won a ton on tour. For a guy that everyone likes, it'd be fun to watch him go on a run and start to win some tournaments. And then you got our guy Fleetwood, who's trying to get a tune-up before the Masters. He's playing well. This is a nice leaderboard for Valero Texas Open.
Speaking of, Tommy Fleetwood is Mick's pick this week to win.
There you go. I've got Russell Henley. I'm
going to say, you've got Russell Henley. I've got Ludwig Oberg. Now, this is my second time taking Ludwig this year. Last time he WD'd. So I'm hoping for a better performance. I looking forward to him having a really good Masters. With that, though, I'm going to ask you the magic question. Who does Alex Urban have next week in Augusta wearing the green jacket on Sunday?
That's a really, really good question. I am going to say Justin Rose.
You and Mick are in the same garden. Then I have Xander Schauffele making a
that would
win.
be cool.
And as you know, Mick and I do our picks back in December, so he gets all grumpy about it. But he is currently leading after the Players by 2 strokes. So I got a little ground to make up.
Xander certainly has the game for. I mean, Xander's one of those guys who has the game to win anywhere. From a horses for courses perspective, he's one of those guys that can win no matter where.
I'm waiting for him to finally break through on that course because he's got the game to play it.
Rose to me is like a little bit of a karma. Like if golf karma can exist, I would like for it to be him. I think that would be a pretty cool tale the year after.
I'd love it for Justin, for Fooch. Obviously Mick and Fooch are very close friends. I'd love to see it for those guys. Yeah. I'd love to see Justin be able to put that, as a almost, I don't want to say final. He's playing some really good golf right now. But that's kind of a, little asterisk or exclamation point.
Cool.
Yeah.
You know who's flying under the radar is Rory McIlroy.
Yeah, well, Rory hasn't really done a lot this season. I mean,
no.
It would be interesting to see him come back and win back-to-back Masters after 12 years of not being able to get it done.
I could see it. I mean, his game's always going to suit that place.
I would love. You've got Russ Henley this week. I would love to see a Russell Henley, make it next week.
I would love to see him win a major at some point.
One of the Georgia boys would always, obviously here in Georgia would always be good. Okay, let's do this. Since the last time you and I talked, the new CEO of the PGA Tour, Mr. Brian Rolopp, came out during the Players and gave his press conference. I want to get your thoughts on really on his 6 topic points, and if whatever ones that you really want to touch on, I'll let you kind of go there. What are some of your takeaways from Brian's press conference a couple weeks ago, and where you see the direction of the tour heading here in the next couple of months and even years?
Yeah, I think one, I was lucky enough to spend some time with Brian here at the Tour Championship. Pretty early on in his tenure, he had just started. And my immediate takeaway, and this is, I think, kind of what you're seeing from everyone, is he's just a really smart guy. He's thoughtful. He asks really pointed questions in a I'm trying to learn as much as I can, and it is really drill down on these topics, and it's very cool, for me to be able to interact with someone like that. And obviously he comes with a whole host of experience and a different perspective. This is kind of the first time we've ever had someone in a role like this at the tour that has not come up through the game of golf. And so I think that's a unique position for him to be in that affords him the opportunity, and all of us the opportunity, to take a look at the business model and the competitive model, which was the Future Competitions Committee that they actually announced here. I'm pointing because he did it from a press conference.
Yeah, it's right over there. Yeah,
about 500 yards that way, and kind of laid the foundations for some of this stuff. And then I was in the room and down at Players for his press conference last month, and I think the big takeaway is this: they've got a lot of work to do. They're talking about all this stuff, that committee, and they're bouncing a lot of ideas around. They have not decided anything just yet. They have those 6 kind of key areas, which none of those I think are rocket science. One of the whole points of this, one of the things, the 3 things he said here: simplicity for the fans, scarcity of events, and parity of competition. And if you look at golf, parity of competition, based on the conversation we were just having, like, we've got that. Anyone any week can win. That's the beauty of golf. Versus, you watch the Australian Open, you can reasonably assume, barring some massive upset, that Carlos Alcaraz is going to be at the very least in the semifinal.
Correct.
Which is not a bad thing either. That's just how that sport works. But the competitive parity is a huge thing that the PGA Tour has. Event scarcity, so trying to figure that piece out. So they're trying to figure out this, how do we create this track 1, track 2 system, whatever that means. I think there's more to come there. I think it makes sense. Some of it is formalizing just kind of how the tour has been set up sort of informally for a long time, and making the pathways in between those a little bit more formal. It's easier for the fans to understand, and then that gets into the simplicity piece, right? Which will then ultimately feed in, theoretically, to the playoffs, the FedEx Cup playoffs, and however it'll affect us here. We don't know exactly what that is yet, but the thing that I am excited about, and I think makes this a really exciting time in general, is that all of this is being done to make the PGA Tour better. The PGA Tour is also already great. It's already fun to watch week to week. I've been working for them for 13 years for a reason, because I enjoy what I do. I love the product that we put out. But if it can get better, then great. Let's make it a little better. I'm all for that.
Yeah, and I think that's the one thing, I agree with you. I love that Brian has surrounded himself with a lot of really smart people that are from the game of golf. But I was also listening to other sources. I think we're going to see a whole new side of the PGA Tour in the next couple of years. I think the fan engagement with players is going to be far greater. I think you're going to see, COVID was, you could look at it from all different lenses, but COVID for the game of golf was phenomenal. It introduced it to so many new people, and now you're able to see these fans. You see a different group of fans out at tour events and even the major events, but also your week to week events that are out there. Do you think that losing a couple of the major tournaments that have always been around, like a great example would be the Valero Texas Open, would the possibility of that going away? I know that scares everybody. Does that make this better for the PGA Tour, or does that make it a little bit like, no, this is, there are certain things that Brian is doing that are going to protect the history of the game, so to speak?
I think, anything as it relates to specific events, it's all conjecture, right? Like, who knows exactly how they're going to set it up? There may be just two tracks and the same amount of events, but they're just set up differently. Like, I don't know. I truly don't. I think what you'll get from Brian is exactly what you've heard him say, which is that he will honor the tradition of the game, but not be bound by it. I've heard him say that a number of times. I think it's a smart way to operate. Tradition is one of the things that makes golf a great sport. And I think it's the fact that it's been around for hundreds of years, and we've been playing these tournaments forever. And the game has changed, but at the end of the day, we're just whacking a ball into a little hole, and that's the goal. That's part of what makes it really special. And so you got to lean into the things that make it special, while also figuring out how to move the path forward. And that's the needle that he's not doing it in a vacuum. There's a committee and all these folks, but that's the needle that everyone's going to try to thread and do it the right way. And look, I'm sure it'll be tweaked. Look at sports are constantly changing and tweaking all the time.
Oh, yeah. Everybody. I mean, the NFL continues to make changes. The NHL has made changes. The NBA continues to make changes. I mean, every sport is making changes. The magnitude, I mean, we live in the golf world, so it's magnified a little bit more. When people start hearing the word scarcity, all of a sudden they think reduction, which is loss. I think in some cases it could be gain, and there are things, and so far Brian's showing that, he's taking the right steps to make the tour better and continue to grow our game. Let me ask you this. So the last time you and I were sitting together was in July of last year. Tommy Fleetwood wins at your place. What were some of your takeaways from last year's Tour Championship, and what are some of the things that you're looking forward to this season as we get closer and every day we get closer and closer to your little event there in August?
Once you get past the Players, it starts and then the Masters, then it really starts to feel like it's like
then it becomes real, doesn't it?
Yeah, here we go. Like we're doing this again. Yeah. Sorry, I'm tickling my throat. And this will be my fifth one in this role, which is crazy. That's already coming up on 5.
I was going to say, you and I have been together for a while now, buddy.
Yeah, we have.
So.
And you know what? Every year has its own unique twist, right? Like last year, the big thing we were talking about this time of year was the dropping of the starting strokes, and what that looked like from a format perspective. It was a massive success. That's my big takeaway: is that having a 4-round golf tournament with very high stakes, with the quality of and caliber of field that we have. I mean, you have a nice little showdown between Tommy Fleetwood and Cameron Young and all these guys that are the very top of the tour. It was awesome. And I thought that what made it really great is that the vibe on Thursday morning was so different because everyone in the field had a chance to win. And it felt like the practice was maybe just a little bit more intense for everyone, especially in the back half of that field, where in the past they were starting 8 shots back, and they're like, how hard am I going to grind this week? Whereas no one was taking any plays off early week on practice reps here last year. So that was really cool. I thought the vibe was very different throughout the week because of that. Then you have the Fleetwood storyline. I mean, the guy comes so close so many times. We talk about how hard it is to win. He knows that better than anybody. And it's funny because everyone always talks about, Tour Championship, wouldn't it be such a disaster if someone won that hadn't won all year? And the answer is no. It was awesome. I don't know what to tell you. Like, he was right there on the doorstep a bunch of times, and then played well enough to make his way into this field, obviously, and then got it done when it mattered the most. So, like, that was pretty special, and he's just such a great guy, and you saw all the support from his fellow professionals, and really popular winner, and had the crowd on his side, which is wild considering the Ryder Cup was just a couple weeks after that. And that's how you know that the guy is just insanely well liked, and it was pretty special to watch. I've watched a lot of guys win golf tournaments. I've been lucky enough to over the last 13 years in person, and that was as impactful of a winning performance that I've been able to see in person. So that was really cool.
I bet the photo shoots were a lot of fun afterwards that you guys get to take with him.
He's always, some guys are always in, some of the guys that have won a million times are like, all right, what do we have to do? He's like, what do I get to do? Like, he's like, hey, you got to sign these 50 pin flags. He's like, great, I've never done that before.
Sweet.
After winning.
Right.
So it's always nice. So sometimes when you get the guy that's like really, really pumped up, and he certainly was, and him and his team were super psyched, and they hopped on planes, and he flew back to Dubai that night.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I think he lives there full time, so he flew back there that night, and I'm sure that was a fun plane ride, would be my guess.
Those boys know how to get after it when they want to.
So no, that was really great. I mean, it had translated the TV ratings. We were the highest TV rated non-major last year, including the Players Championship.
Great.
Like that's a pretty rarefied air to be in, which is it's special. It definitely resonated, is what it felt like. And then you asked about this year and what we're looking towards. One, I'm excited about the second year with no starting strokes. Proof of concept, right? It's there. Yep. We have a really fun format and setup for this tournament. Our third year now after the course restoration, it's really starting to sink in. They tried to set it up a little bit more difficult, or whatever you want to call it. This last year, it rained a little bit, and there was no wind. Like we talked about Mother Nature. If you have a little softness and no wind, these guys are going to shoot good scores. That's just what they do. Last year was nice. It wasn't so hot. It was like 85 to 90 every day instead of 95 plus. That was a nice change of pace for us.
I would agree.
That was good.
I'll attest to that being out there.
More of that would be good.
Yeah.
We always, every year, we're trying to make this place better for fans to visit, and that goes the fan experience and what happens to fans when they step on site to when they leave is that's what we're trying to continue to raise the bar on, so that people want to come back and more people want to come, and the atmosphere, the vibe is good. We've got a great fan base here in Atlanta. Like they love the game of golf. Like that's one thing you heard Brian say is that the city of Atlanta, they're talking about these big markets. Here's a big market that we live and have an event in. That loves the game of golf and comes out and shows it from a fan perspective, from a corporate perspective. Volunteers, I mean, we launched our volunteer registration for returning volunteers. We'll launch it to the public here soon, but like we're already like half full of volunteers. The tournament's 5 months away. Like it's amazing.
It's funny because they mentioned that today here. They've got over 115 new volunteers already for the Mitsubishi here in a couple of weeks. Here, I agree with you. Atlanta turns out obviously for the big events, but they definitely they volunteer. They're there for things. Let me ask you this question. This is the one Mick always loves, is when I throw curveballs. 3 guys that were not at the Tour Championship last year that will tee it up at East Lake in August.
All right, I got to think about. Okay.
You got to. I know you're going to have to.
I got to think about who's in the field. I don't want to.
There's only 30. Come on, Alex. You should remember everybody by
30
heart.
Times 4. You remember who was in the field this year? Who wasn't? I always remember the guy.
I'll tell you, Scotty was in the field last year.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Tommy, I believe, was in the field as well.
Yeah, Tommy Fleetwood is another one. You can't pick him. Yeah.
Siwoo Kim wasn't in the field. I don't think.
I don't believe so.
Siwoo would be one guy that I think has been playing pretty well. He was actually featured if you had a chance to catch the Chasing Sunday doc that the PGA Tour dropped with NFL Films following the Players Championship. I think it's on YouTube. Dropped the Tuesday after.
Yeah.
You should watch that. It's very fun. And Siwoo was one of the players featured in it. Former Players Champion. He's been a President's Cup guy for a long time for the international team. I really like Siwoo. I think he's just a fun personality. But he's also, when he's on, he flushes the golf ball. So there's a guy that I would think would have a chance. I think he's playing pretty well this year. I don't know where he's at in the FedEx Cup, but I would think he'd have a chance to be here. All right, 2 more guys. Jake Knapp.
Okay.
I don't think there's no way he was here.
I don't know. I don't think he made it past. I don't think he made it past Memphis last year.
Like Gary Woodland, he just absolutely obliterates golf balls, but does it in his swing. His swing is just. I can watch it all day. It's just it's so smooth, but yet he has 190 plus ball speed. I frankly don't understand it. I've watched it. I watch it in slow motion. I swing golf clubs myself. Theoretically, I have the same ability.
You have right in your mind. It's the same swing. I totally get it. Yeah.
So he's been playing pretty well and has contended, and again winning is hard, so he hasn't gotten it done on Sunday. But he's a guy that I think could be a guy that makes his way to East Lake depending on how he plays in the latter half of the year. And then guy that's been kind of off the radar for a few years is Daniel Berger. Berger's one of those guys that was he was right there with Spieth and JT and kind of mentioned in the same breath as them, and then had some injuries that he's battled. Yeah. And it's actually really interesting if you watch his golf swing now. He's back and playing pretty well. Was on kind of in the mix on Sunday a couple weeks ago. His top of his backswing looks so different than it did when he was last playing. He was always really laid off. His club was pointing way left of the target at the top back when he was playing, and now it's very much more square, you see Scotty and JT and all these guys with square club face at the top. It's really fascinating that he's changed it as much as he has.
And he's a low ball flight hitter, and that
low
thing
ball
will just
flight guy.
Take off and run.
He knows how to win. He's won before, so there's a guy that I wouldn't be shocked if we saw him here in Atlanta at East Lake.
So you gave me 4.
Knapp, Siwoo, and Berger.
And Gary.
Oh well, yeah. I just said.
I would love to see Gary.
Gary would be awesome.
I'll tell you this. So my pick, by the way, for the Tour Championship is Xander. Xander will be healthy. He'll be back. He loves East Lake. Mick kind of rolled his eyes, but that's okay. That's what Mick does anyway. So we'll see if I'm close on that one. Tickets on sale. What's going on? Is still hospitality available? If somebody is out there and they're looking for a really fun event in the end of August? What in Atlanta? Or they're a big corporation that would love to host an event? Obviously, we'll get them in touch with you. But what's going on there from that perspective? We'll
go on sale here with grounds tickets right after the Masters, so people can take a. Keep their eyes towards tourchampionship.com and our at tourchamp on various social channels. So
we'll make sure we make an announcement on this podcast.
Yeah, usually the week after. So I think we're slated for something like that Thursday after to be on sale to the public with grounds tickets. But if you're looking for upgraded experiences, we have all kinds of them. Again, tourchampionship.com is the way to take a look at those, whether you're interested in private hospitality suites or shared hospitality, you're looking for 2, 4, 6 tickets, that kind of thing, on all kinds of locations and various types of products. Not to get into a dissertation over it, but there's something out here for everyone, to say it simply. And if it's a number of people or a location, chances are we've got it. So that's one of the things that makes this place beautiful, is that we can build to scale. And Atlanta and the market here and the corporations have told us that they want to support this place, and so we've been able to build this great hospitality setup and build that makes it feel big and like the key huge event on the PGA Tour that it is.
Yeah, it's you've done an amazing job, you and your team there over at East Lake. Great work there, and looking forward to continuing to supporting you and your team. All right, one last thing. Since you and I haven't had a chance to get out because you've been busy, sir, how is the family?
Family's great. I've got a fresh one at home. I got a little baby boy who's about coming up on 3 months ish. He's 2.5 months. He's great. He likes to. He's a very smiley little guy. He likes to watch golf, so he's going to fit right in.
Perfect.
His big sister is 2.5, and she's seemingly, likes him, which is good.
Still likes him. Okay, good. Yeah.
She's not doesn't seem to be jealous. And then my wife Jamie's doing awesome. She's awesome. The champion, as you might expect. Thank the Lord that I've got someone at home that takes care of me because. Amen, brother.
I trust me. Yeah. I say the same thing about Lynn every single day. I'm like I wouldn't know what to do without her. And then. Excited for you, happy for you. I know you right around the Tour Championship. You kind of let us all know that you guys had been expecting and welcoming the little guy in, and I'm sure he already has a golf club in his hand. So,
his sister certainly has as well. So
perfect.
She understands golf. She'll point at the TV and ask to put golf on like Tuesday at 7 p.m. and I'm like. Not today. There's no golf on today, and she'll get all sad. It's very sweet. So she's already understanding the program in our house.
Well, it has been fun. We are wrapping up. You ready for this? Episode 72. So we have completed a full tournament. So thank you for being a part of our little journey here for the last couple of years. Looking forward to having you back on here soon. And then and filling in for Mick. By the way, the going away party lasted about 4 days, and I don't think there's I don't think there's an ultra left in the state of Georgia or a dry or any more tiers left. So we had a good time. So yeah,
I believe that. Well, thank you for having me. Back on again and again. I'll say it's been a blast.
Awesome.
Love doing the show and talking about golf. I can BS about golf all day if you'll have
you and I have a lunch date coming up. I know we got to talk things for August coming up, so I'm looking forward to seeing you in person. So with that, thanks for teeing it up with us on Tales from the Tips. If you're catching us on YouTube, make sure you give us a like, hit that subscribe button, drop us a comment, let us know what you think. We do appreciate it. You can catch Tales from the Tips wherever you find your favorite podcast, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and now available on iHeart Podcasts. That's right. Just search for Tales from the Tips under podcast. Give us a like, hit the thumbs up, hit the plus button, and enjoy. Alex, I know you follow us. You can follow us on all the socials, Instagram, X, and Mick's favorite, TikTok. And, of course, you can watch this debacle live on the Twitch. Just turn on your notifications, and when we go live, you get notified. I see Chris Fortney on. Hi, Chris. Good to see you. Thanks for everything, my friend. We will be in touch soon. And if you are playing golf anytime soon, keep your drive straight, your putt short, and your scores low. We'll see you next time on Tales from the Tips.